Venice, Italy, midnight. The chandeliers sparkled above the grand marble hall like 1,000 captive stars, casting golden light over the silk-draped tables and the crystal glasses filled with aged wine. The waters of the Grand Canal whispered against the ancient walls of the palazzo, and violins sang a hauntingly elegant melody that only made the tension heavier. This was no ordinary party. This was a ceasefire. Two mafia empires, centuries-old rivals soaked in blood and betrayal, stood under one roof tonight. The De Luca family of Italy, infamous for their control over southern Europe's arms routes, and the Montoya family of Spain, equally ruthless, dealing in diamonds, narcotics, and politics. Tonight was not about reconciliation, it was about appearances. And yet, something unexpected was about to bloom in this field of gunpowder. Leonardo De Luca stood near the balcony, glass of bourbon in hand, dressed in a tailored black suit that hugged his tall frame like armor. His presence commanded the room, but his eyes were elsewhere, watching. He had known she would come. Catalina Montoya, the only daughter of Miguel Montoya, the man who had ordered his mother's assassination when Leonardo was only 13. But it wasn't Miguel who had signed the death sentence. It was Catalina, 18 years old, fresh from university, already shadowing her father's empire. Documents Leonardo had intercepted years ago showed her signature, naive and cruel, on the execution order. She was trying to prove her worth, to show the Montoyas she had ice in her veins. And she succeeded. Leonardo had sworn that day. One day he would destroy her world, the same way she had shattered his. But fate had a twisted sense of humor. Because when he saw her now, walking in with a blood-red gown that clung to her like sin, a single black rose in her hair, eyes sharper than a dagger and lips curved in the faintest of smirks, he didn't feel hatred. He felt fire. "You're staring," Catalina said as she approached him, voice calm but dripping with challenge. Leonardo smiled, the kind of smile that made women fall in love and enemies reach for their guns. Admiring. "Is that a crime, señorita?" She looked at him with a calculating glance. "In my world, admiring the enemy is suicide." "Then let's make it a beautiful death." They danced. Not the slow, romantic sway of lovers, but something electric, urgent, sharp. Eyes locked, words whispered between teeth. The music swelled, but they didn't hear it. All they saw was each other. Two storms colliding under crystal chandeliers. She didn't know who he was. Not yet. And he didn't care that she was his enemy. Not in that moment. In that moment, they were just two predators circling, flirting with something forbidden. But peace never lasted long in the mafia world. Suddenly, the ballroom doors burst open. Gunshots echoed. Screams followed. A rival gang, the Bratva, Russian wolves with no sense of honor, stormed in, guns blazing, hoping to wipe out both families in one glorious bloodbath. Chaos erupted. Leonardo didn't hesitate. He shoved Catalina behind a marble column, drew a pistol from beneath his jacket, and returned fire with surgical precision. Blood sprayed across white linens, glass shattered, bodies dropped. Catalina, wide-eyed but composed, pulled a hidden blade from her dress and slit the throat of an attacker coming from behind. He turned just in time to see it. "You fight well," he muttered, breathless. "So do you," she replied, equally breathless. Back to back, they fought like they were made for it. Her blade and his gun in perfect sync, blood painting the walls like some tragic ballet. When the last Russian fell, silence returned. Except for the sound of her breathing. Except for the way her hand lingered on his. Later, as they escaped the chaos into a secret corridor, Leonardo turned to her, their faces inches apart. Her eyes glowed in the darkness, fierce and curious. "Who are you really?" she asked. He leaned in, lips brushing her ear. "I'm the ghost of a woman you killed." Her breath caught. He stepped back, left her stunned, and disappeared into the shadows. The hunt had begun. And so had the war. Barcelona, Spain. 1 week later. Rain poured like a curse over the Montoya estate, an opulent fortress perched high above the city. The sea roared in the distance, crashing violently against the cliffs, as if the earth itself wanted to swallow secrets buried too long. Catalina stood at the window of her private study, holding a glass of wine that she had barely touched. Her gaze pierced through the storm. But her thoughts were still back in Venice. The man with the devil's smile and the haunted eyes. The man who whispered vengeance. "I'm the ghost of a woman you killed." Those words hadn't stopped echoing in her head. She hadn't told anyone. Not her father, not her guards, not even her private security analyst. That moment had become hers alone, a secret that made her pulse race with equal parts fear and fascination. Who was he? Why did she feel drawn to him like a flame to kerosene? And what did he mean? She turned from the window and pulled up the encrypted files on her laptop. One keyword. Leonardo De Luca. Match found. She stared at the photo on the screen. It was him. Heir of the De Luca Empire. Trained by mercenaries in Eastern Europe. Fluent in 5 languages. Known for his calculated ruthlessness. And mother, Giulia Romano, assassinated in Madrid under a black flag operation authorized by Montoya Command, 6 years ago. Catalina's blood ran cold. She remembered the document. She remembered her signature. Her hand shook slightly as she closed the laptop. The weight of her legacy pressed down like a noose. He knew. And he had saved her life. Why? Meanwhile, in Naples, Leonardo paced the underground chamber beneath an abandoned cathedral. His personal war room. Maps, photos, and intelligence were pinned to the stone walls like trophies in a hunter's den. In the center stood a long table where a single name was circled in red. Catalina Montoya. She was his path to vengeance. But vengeance had never felt so complicated. "She hesitated before killing that Russian," murmured Luca, his cousin and closest confidant. "She's not innocent," Leonardo replied. "No. But she's not who she used to be either. You saw it, didn't you?" Leonardo didn't answer. Instead, he stepped to the table, picked up a black folder and opened it. Inside was Phase 2 of his plan. Infiltrate Montoya operations in Barcelona. Gain Catalina's trust. Make her fall in love. Expose her family from within. Destroy them all. His hand paused over the last line. But he didn't cross it out. Instead, he said quietly, "She will help me burn them, even if she doesn't know it yet." 2 days later. Barcelona Art Gala. Under the guise of a European charity for orphan children, the Montoya family hosted one of the most exclusive galas in Spain. The venue, a restored 18th-century museum with ancient frescoes and golden domes that glimmered under candlelight. Leonardo arrived in a dark tailored tuxedo, mask on his face, invitation stolen from a corrupted diplomat. He blended in like a shadow. And then he saw her, Catalina, draped in emerald silk, her hair pinned back, a single diamond glinting at her throat. Her eyes scanned the room like a queen surveying her kingdom, and then stopped. Him. He smiled behind the mask. She didn't smile back. Not yet. As the orchestra played and the guests mingled, he moved through the crowd with practiced grace. They collided near the balcony again. Like fate or design. "You," she whispered, voice laced with tension. "Me," he confirmed. "You weren't invited. I never need an invitation to see you again." She narrowed her eyes. "Why are you here?" "To finish our dance," he said smoothly and held out his hand. She hesitated, then placed hers in his. They danced again, slower this time. Their bodies spoke in a language older than war. "I know who you are now," she said finally. "And yet you still dance with me. Maybe I want to understand." "Understand what?" he asked, twirling her. "Why the man who should hate me the most keeps saving me." Leonardo leaned closer, brushing her ear with a whisper. "Maybe I wanted you to owe me." Just as the song ended, a burst of gunfire shattered the glass dome above. Screams erupted. An inside betrayal. A splinter faction of the Montoya cartel had decided to take Catalina out and seize control, believing she had grown too soft. Men in black masks flooded the ballroom. Leonardo grabbed her wrist. "Stay with me." He pulled her down a hidden corridor, bullets chasing their shadows. They burst into a servant's passage, hearts pounding, clothes torn. "You planned this," she spat, accusing. "Not this," he snapped, pulling out a gun and shooting a masked assailant over her shoulder. They ran. Into the night. Into the fire. Later. Safe house. The room was dim. Quiet. The storm had passed, and the scent of gunpowder clung to their skin. Catalina sat on the edge of the bed, blood on her sleeve, eyes locked on Leonardo. "Tell me the truth. Why didn't you let me die?" He stared at her. "You think this is still about revenge?" he asked, walking closer. "That I came here just to make you suffer? Isn't that what I deserve?" The silence between them cracked like ice under pressure. And then he kissed her. Not tenderly, but with heat, with pain, with 1,000 unsaid things. She kissed him back. And in that moment the war paused. But it didn't end. Because neither of them knew if this was love, or the deadliest trap of all. Barcelona, 5 days after the gala. Catalina stood on the rooftop of the Montoya estate. Her eyes fixed on the Mediterranean Sea. The wind tugged at her silk blouse as if trying to rip away her composure. Below her, the mansion buzzed with tension. Guards doubled. Meetings moved underground. The failed assassination attempt had shaken the empire. Someone inside had betrayed her. But who? Her father had said nothing, only barked orders. Her uncle Javier had vanished the day after the gala. And then there was him. Leonardo. She hadn't seen him since the night they fled together. The night they kissed. The kiss that still lingered on her lips like a brand. She closed her eyes. "You think this is still about revenge?" His words echoed louder now. She could feel it in her gut. He was hiding something. But what terrified her more was that she didn't care. Meanwhile, underground safehouse, Naples. Leonardo sat in a dim-lit chamber with Luca and 2 other De Luca loyalists. Matteo, the explosives expert, and Celine, a former Mossad operative. "She's still alive," Luca said, arms crossed. Leonardo didn't look up. "Good. You're getting too close," Celine warned, her voice cold. "Don't forget what she did to your mother." "I never forget," Leonardo replied. But his hand clenched involuntarily. "She's not just a pawn anymore, is she?" Luca challenged, a trace of concern in his tone. Leonardo leaned back in his chair and finally looked up. "She's the key. And keys can be broken or used." Matteo chuckled darkly. "Then let's talk about Phase 3. Leonardo walked to the board and marked a red X over an image. Miguel Montoya, Catalina's father. "We bleed the Montoyas from the inside," he said. "Her father is preparing a weapons shipment through Marseille. We intercept it, make it look like an internal betrayal. And we push Catalina closer to us." "Then what?" Celine asked. "Then," he said with quiet conviction, "she chooses blood or truth." 3 days later, Montoya private jet en route to Marseille. Catalina sat across from her father, watching him pour whiskey with a hand that never trembled. "You're sending me to oversee the deal personally?" she asked. Miguel gave a nod, his silver hair glinting in the cabin light. "After what happened at the gala, I don't trust anyone else. Not even Javier." "You don't trust me either," she said softly. He met her eyes. "You're my daughter. But never forget, you're also a Montoya." Montoya. The words felt like chains. She turned to the window, watching clouds drift like ghosts. She could feel something shifting in her. Guilt, longing, and fear. Because Leonardo had disappeared without a word. And that scared her more than any gun ever could. Port of Marseille, midnight. The docks were silent, save for the creaking of cranes and the distant waves. Catalina walked beside a convoy of black SUVs, flanked by guards. Inside the containers, State-of-the-art weapons bound for warlords in North Africa. The deal was clean, efficient, until it wasn't. An explosion ripped through the far end of the port, sending a container flying like a tin can. The shock wave knocked guards to the ground. Gunfire lit up the night. Ambush. De Luca soldiers. Catalina dove behind a metal crate, pulling a pistol from her coat. Her ears rang, but her training kicked in. She took down 2 attackers before a masked figure grabbed her from behind. "Get off." "It's me," the voice hissed. Her blood froze. "Leonardo." He pulled off the mask, revealing dirt-streaked skin and eyes on fire. "You need to come with me. Now." "What the hell are you doing here?" "This deal was a trap. Your uncle sold you out. He's working with the Russians." "You're lying." Leonardo didn't answer. He just grabbed her hand. And she let him. They ran through the chaos, ducking gunfire, vaulting crates, until they reached a black motorbike stashed behind a shipping container. He handed her a helmet. "Get on." She didn't ask why. She just obeyed. Abandoned church. French countryside. They rode for over an hour. When they finally stopped, it was in front of a crumbling stone church swallowed by ivy. Leonardo led her inside, past broken pews and stained glass shadows. "Why did you save me again?" Catalina asked, voice low. He lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly. "Because if you died, I wouldn't know what I'm fighting for anymore." She stepped closer, anger in her eyes. "You used me." "I did. You kissed me. I still think about it every night." "You." She didn't finish. Because she didn't want to hear the truth. Instead, she slapped him. Hard. He didn't flinch. Then she pulled him into a kiss. Desperate. Furious. Real. And he kissed her back like it was the last moment before the world ended. When they pulled apart, her voice trembled. "What now?" Leonardo looked into her eyes, and for the first time, he let the mask fall. "We bring them down. Together." "You mean my family?" "I mean ours." Montoya Estate, same night. In Barcelona, Miguel Montoya received a phone call. "She escaped," Javier said coldly. "With who?" Leonardo De Luca's photo lit up on the encrypted screen. Miguel's jaw clenched. "Then it's time we end this." He opened a drawer and pulled out a faded photograph. Showed Catalina as a child. Next to a woman with dark hair. Julia Romano. By his orders. "She was always going to choose him," he whispered. Then he turned to his guards. "Send the kill order. Both of them." Abandoned church. Somewhere in the French countryside. The candlelight flickered, casting fractured shadows on the crumbling stone walls. Catalina sat on the edge of the altar, still dressed in black combat pants and a torn silk blouse, blood dried on the edge of her sleeve. Across from her, Leonardo stared into the dying flame. Neither of them spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why didn't you kill me that night?" He looked up. She was trembling, and for once not from fear. "I would've," she continued, "if someone murdered my mother." He stood slowly and walked toward her, the weight of years darkening his eyes. "Because when I looked at you, I didn't see her killer." "I gave the order," Catalina said quietly. 3 years ago. In Madrid. I signed the hit." He stopped inches from her. "And I knew it. Since the gala." She blinked. "Then why?" "Because I wanted to hate you," he whispered, voice raw. "I wanted to break you. But instead." He reached out and touched her cheek. "I fell." Catalina's eyes welled. "So now what?" "We run. We hide while they burn the world behind us." "No," he said, his voice steel. "We end it. Next morning." Safe house underground vault. Leonardo rolled out a blueprint of both Montoya and De Luca operations across Europe. Shipping lanes, weapon stockpiles, laundering centers. "This is bigger than you and me," he said. "Our fathers have been pulling strings from the shadows for decades. They need each other to stay in power. You kill one, the other takes everything." Then we burn both, Catalina replied coldly. She stabbed her finger onto a marked location. Zurich, the offshore bank. That's where it starts, she said. If we freeze their funds, the empire collapses. Getting in won't be easy. My father's shadow accounts are triple encrypted. I can get us access, Catalina said, pulling out a thin gold keycard. My uncle Javier left it behind when he fled. Idiot didn't know I learned to mimic his iris scan. Leonardo smiled grimly. Remind me never to piss you off. You already did, she smirked. He chuckled, but the levity didn't last. Because they both knew what came next. Blood. 2 days later, Zurich, Switzerland. The city was cloaked in snow, white and sterile, like the sins it buried beneath mirrored skyscrapers. Leonardo and Catalina entered the bank disguised as elite investors. She wore a crimson coat, heels that clicked like gunshots. He wore a navy suit, tie slightly loosened to reveal the hint of a weapon holster. They moved like wolves in silk. In the vault's inner chamber, Catalina pressed the keycard. The scanner beeped green. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Catalina Montoya. You've activated a silent alarm. Her blood froze. Behind them, the vault doors slammed shut. Hiss. Trap. Leonardo growled, yanking his blazer off and covering her mouth. They ducked low, smashing a panel. Leonardo ripped wires with expert fingers while Catalina held her breath. Her vision blurred. Time warp. Then the gas vents hissed and died. He fell beside her, coughing. Go now. She hit the override. The vault opened. Outside, 6 armed men waited. But so did Celine. She appeared from the shadows, twin pistols drawn. We've got 60 seconds, she barked. Together they fought their way out, bullets shattering glass, screams echoing off marble. By the time they escaped into the snow-covered alley, Leonardo's arm was bleeding. Catalina tore her scarf and wrapped it around his wound. I told you I'd break the world for you, she muttered, tying the knot. Now I'm starting to believe it. He touched her hand. Don't stop. Elsewhere, Montoya Private Estate, Spain. Miguel Montoya stared at a live feed of the Zurich attack. His expression was unreadable. So she's made her choice, he muttered. Javier stood beside him, pale. We still have the Prague deal. And the syndicate in Palermo. Shut them down. Send the word to the Bratva. I want her dead before the week is out. Javier hesitated. And Leonardo. Miguel's eyes burned with hatred. He dies screaming. Later that night. Forest hideout, northern Italy. Snow fell in thick sheets. Leonardo sat by the fire while Celine patched his wound. You're falling for her, she said flatly. He didn't deny it. You know what happens when this ends, don't you? I don't plan on surviving, he whispered. Celine's expression didn't change. You might. But she won't. Across the fire, Catalina stared at an old photo she found in one of Leonardo's encrypted folders. It showed a woman in a garden, Giulia Romano, his mother. And next to her, a younger Miguel Montoya, her father. Her mouth went dry. She flipped the photo over. Date, location, and a message. For G with love. Suddenly everything clicked. Her father hadn't just ordered the death of Giulia Romano. He had once loved her. And then betrayed her. Catalina stumbled out into the snow, heart racing. Leonardo followed. What is it? He asked. She turned, tears streaming. Your mother wasn't just collateral. She was his. Leonardo froze. No, he whispered. Yes. Her voice cracked. He loved her. And when she chose your father, he killed her for it. The silence between them was deafening. You were never supposed to live, she said. That's why he's always feared you. Leonardo dropped to his knees. And suddenly, he laughed. Hollow, broken sound. I was born of a love he couldn't have. And now I'm here to end him. Catalina knelt beside him. We end both of them. He looked into her eyes. For them. For us, she whispered. They kissed again, but this time there was no desperation. Only vengeance. Only fire. Barcelona. Montoya family estate. Midnight. The storm rolled in from the sea, casting sharp shadows across the Montoya estate. Lightning flashed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grand Salon, illuminating the fractured look on Leonardo's face. Catalina stood at the center of the room, her chest rising and falling with every breath. Her dress was torn from the earlier chase through the gardens, and her eyes shimmered with both fear and something deeper, resignation. Leonardo held the gun in his hand, but it hung loosely by his side. She had confessed. It was my order, Catalina had said. Your mother was leading an attack that would have wiped out half my family. Had to choose. I chose my blood. He had waited years for that truth, and it had broken him more than he ever imagined. The air between them. Say something, she whispered. He stepped forward, the rain now tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. You know, Leonardo said, his voice low and strained, I thought I'd feel peace when I heard you admit it, that all the planning, all the pretending, would finally be worth it. He looked up. His eyes weren't angry. They were shattered. But I don't feel peace. I feel like I've been dying since the moment I met you. Catalina's lips trembled. And I've been dying every day knowing I was the reason you lost her. The past they cannot bury. Leonardo's mind was a storm of memories. The scent of his mother's perfume, her laughter echoing through their Roman villa, the crimson that spread across the floor that night, her eyes open but no longer seeing. He had hunted every Montoya in secret for years. He had planned Catalina's fall meticulously. But then she smiled at him. And everything changed. Tension like glass. You played me, Catalina said, voice barely audible. Yes. You came close to me knowing all along. I did. She let out a bitter laugh, half a sob. And yet I loved you with everything I had. I know. Lightning struck again, revealing his hand tightening around the pistol. Catalina took a step forward, unafraid. Then do it, she said. End it. Fulfill your revenge. Isn't that what you came for? Leonardo raised the gun, but his hand trembled. Seconds stretched like hours. He looked into her eyes. Eyes that had ordered death, yes, but eyes that had also cried beside him, laughed with him, burned for him. I should hate you, he said, voice cracking. But I love you. She stepped closer. Her chest brushed against the barrel of the gun. You can't love someone you can't forgive. Silence. Then, slowly, painfully, Leonardo lowered the weapon. The goodbye that burned. You will never have my forgiveness, he said, eyes dark but hollow. But I won't take your life. Because killing you would kill the last piece of me that still feels alive. Catalina nodded slowly, tears silently streaking down her cheeks. I don't deserve your love, she whispered. No, he said, turning away. But I gave it to you anyway. Two roads that cannot cross again. As dawn approached, the rain slowed. Leonardo walked out of the Montoya estate without looking back. Catalina stood at the top of the stairs, clutching the locket he had once left on her pillow. Two hearts, one love, but divided by too much blood. They had met as enemies, loved as strangers, and parted as something neither war nor time could truly name.